In the last video, we focused on how to create levee data when you don't have a lot of survey data or LiDAR data to work with. You're kind of working with a really basic map functions. So we learned how to build levees even if that's the case. So on this project, we're going to kind of switch directions and we are going to show you how to utilize the levee data from the National Levee Database. So again, to get to this database, you just Google National Levee Database. And when you do that, you will get access to the levee map, the levee download page, and I'm not going to load those, and this, because this is what's important, the access portal for this data. So this takes you to the server. And all you need to do on the server is copy the URL. So we'll copy that and take that to QGIS and access your map. So I've already actually done that, but I'm going to do this anyway just to show you how. So if we do data source manager right here, we can do a new server connection. Now remember, you want to be all the way down at the bottom on this ArcGIS server. We'll click new, name the server anything that you want, and then paste the URL in there. Now I'll give you a second to screenshot that if you want to take that directly to ChatGPT so you don't have to type that in, or you can just type it in. And then put the name and then click OK. That should connect you to that server. If you have any issues, you need to get through a firewall or something like that, get help from your IT or from your admin. Then once you do that, you can connect to it. And this is the data that you can add. So there's not a lot of data in our project area. Really the only thing in our project area that's valid is cross sections and alignment and levied areas. So you'll select that and click add. I'm not going to do it because I already have it over here. I already have it. And it's going to tell you that this one needed to be renamed because Flow2D already has a layer called cross sections. So we can't have two layers named cross sections because it confuses our processors. So it renames it for you. And then you have, so this will be your cross sections. And if you zoom in on them, you'll see that they are just cross sections across your levee, cross sections that are crossing your levee. We don't actually need those, so I'm going to turn them right back off. You might need them for something, but I don't need them for anything. We also have alignment lines. Now these are the active alignment lines, and these lines are vectors. So you can download them as vectors, and that's exactly what we're going to do. We're going to download these as vectors. So to get these to download, you'll just go right click and then export and save features as. Now you need to pay attention to this because there are some things here that you're going to need to pay attention and do carefully. So we need to put these two, I'm going to call this XXXX because I don't actually need it because I've already done alignment lines download for my data right here. So I'll click save, and I do need to put this to the coordinate system of our project. So that's important that this coordinate system matches this coordinate system. And then let's go on and get the stuff that we don't need. Actually, let me cancel out of here real quick. Let's do this. Before I do anything, I want to ID this line so that it gives us some information. And you know what? I only want one of those, so let's do that. Okay, there we go. So this will kind of give us an idea of what we do and don't want from this data set. Okay, so back to alignment lines, and then we go export, save features as. Let's just call it this one because we don't need it because I've already downloaded it right here to alignment lines download. This goes to the project coordinate system, and now we can use this over here to identify what we don't need. I'll typically keep the object ID because it's a unique. This one we definitely don't want because you see this blob. This will make it impossible for us to make a shapefile of this. So uncheck that, and then just come down along here. Segment name looks important, so I don't think the system ID is important. System name is fine. Alignment ID, again, not super important, but we'll keep alignment type. System type, what is system type? Levee system, okay. I guess that's maybe that's important. I don't think states or counties are important to what we are doing. Community names, again, not important. Division is important. No, well, maybe not division, but district is important because that's the core district that's in charge of this levee, okay? FEMA region might be important. Okay, congressional district, not important for us. The sponsor, Middle Rio Grande Conservancy District, that might be important. Public utility, and then this one is null, so I'm just going to uncheck that one. I mean, that might be important, but I'm just going to uncheck it for now. Flood sources, that's probably important. And then again, I'm just going to uncheck the rest of these because I don't think we need them. And then the last thing that we need to do is set the extent of what we want to download to our map extent. So map canvas extent, and then just click OK. I'm going to click overwrite because I've already done this once. Okay, that is ready. So now what you see is we have downloaded the this levee data is for the whole country. So we don't want that. So let's just uncheck that. And this is just pertinent to our project. Also, I'm going to uncheck that, and I'm going to click ID somewhere else to get rid of that bright line. But when you download this, it's a little bit more data than you need. So what you can do is you can zoom to the extent, like zoom to extent, and then you can click edit, and then pick up this vertex tool, and then just pick up anything that you don't need, and then delete it. So anything that's outside of our project area that we don't need, I'll be about to right there, we'll go ahead and delete. And then we'll need to clean up this data a little bit, but I'm not going to do that on the video, but I will show you the difference between this data and the data that we cleaned up. All right, so let's go ahead and turn the editor off on this one really quickly. And let's turn our downloaded levee data back on because I want to show you the modifications I made to it that were necessary to get good alignment and make sure that it connects to our grid properly. So let's just look at this in a couple of different spots. First of all, let's make this guy bright blue maybe. How about bright blue? Let's just say blue. And let's just go with 0.5. Okay. And that means that this one is kind of a pinkish color. And you can see the difference of what we've done here along the border. We've made this, kind of taken this right up to the edge of the property, and also just trying to make sure that the alignment along the levee is looking pretty clean. Okay. We'll probably make adjustments after we write the levees. Okay. Same here. This is probably fine. Nothing going on here that we need to really worry about. Okay, so let's get down to some of these other places that I've made modifications. I don't think I made any modifications along here, not really necessary. But once you get down here, you can see that I did make some modifications. I deleted the vertices off of our map, and I straightened out this so that this could be opened up but still blocked off. So that was a little bit of a change that I had to make because my grid cell size is 200 by 200. So I want at least one grid element width open through there at this point. I also had to make some modifications to this line. Its alignment was pretty far off, and I decided to put my levee on the inside of the ditch, not on the outside of the ditch, even though there's probably levees on both sides of that ditch. I'm also not too concerned about anything that's out here because my study area is really focusing here in the Middle Rio Grande Valley. Well, in the Middle Rio Grande channel corridor, not the whole floodplain. So again, remember, define your project area, and that will help you to define the position and how many levees and berms that you're wanting to put into your project area. So I had a bit of an alignment issue here that I had to correct. And then I had another issue here that I had to correct. So as you can see, my pink line diverged slightly from these two blue lines, and I just made a minor correction right in here. I think everything else right down here, I did have some issues possibly with my levee crossing my channel, so we'll need to check that when we come back. After we create our levees, we'll come back and check that space. And again, another issue here where again I just spread those out a little bit so that they will stay and leave this space open if we want to use that space in the future. All right, let's go. And then down here, I just put our vertices to the bottom of the map. And that is basically all we needed. Okay, so that is how I process the data manually to kind of get it ready for the project area. Let's now so we're finished with this one and we can just remove it. Now I did all the work here, but I actually need the data to be in this layer because this is the layer that the Flow2D plugin uses to process the data. So what I want to show you with this layer is the, hold on one second, I want to show you the attributes of this layer. So I open the attribute table of this layer right here, and you can see that it needs an attribute of name. And what do we not need? We don't need elevation, correction, fail, any of that stuff. We don't need any of that stuff at this time. So I will just ignore the rest of this stuff. But what I do need is I do need to transfer this data from here into here. And before I do that, I need to make a minor modification to this data because I do want these names. So if I come down here and I right click and open attribute table, let me, sorry, I want to dock these guys all together so that my attributes are all here. So what I need is to add a field to this data, right? And the field is name. I don't need this elevation field, but this field, by using name all lowercase, that data will then automatically be added here. So I come and I make name, and then I just, let's see, I think I just took, well, here's a segment name. It looks like I just, oh, you know what, I actually used the wrong name. So let me do that again. So we go edit, and then this goes to name, and then this goes to segment name right here. And we click update all, and why did that not change that? This goes to name and this goes to segment name, update all. Refresh? Nope, we can't refresh because nothing has happened. Maybe these are, yeah, that's, I don't know. Okay, let me just do this. Let's do this. Let's go to name, and then let's do this. We'll go like that. Okay, and now we'll put it to, let's get rid of that. And now we'll put that to segment name and update all. Interesting. I don't know why it's using flood source instead of segment name. Let's see, maybe because of that. Let's see. Yeah, it doesn't like that name for some reason. It doesn't like this. I don't know why. I'm going to copy that, and then I'm come over here and paste it. Yeah, it doesn't like that. So let's do this. We'll go delete these two, and then we'll add, we didn't actually need elevation, but let's add name, and let's make it string, and let's say 30 characters. Maybe that's the problem. Those are too big. Click OK, and now this goes to name, and this goes to segment name, update all. Ah, that's better. Okay. All right, so that worked. Let's go ahead and save it, and then turn it off. And now when I copy all of these features into here, you'll see that it will it will bring those names in automatically. Okay, let's start. So here what we do, we come back to our alignment lines that we've downloaded, and we select all features. Now if you can't find, this is your selection tool. I always like to keep it right here because it gets hidden over here somewhere and it's really hard to find. So I like to keep it right here, and this drop down menu gives you select all right there. And as you can see, we've selected everything on the map. So if you come to the map and you Control C, that will copy all of these features. I don't know if you noticed, but I did drag the map a little before I copied all of those features. Then we'll come here to Levee lines, turn those back on, hit edit, select all, delete selected features, and then Control V will paste the features. And then I'll click Save, and then come back down here to Levee Line Features, and you can see that not only do we have the 7 features, but with the correct elevation, that should be 0. All of this data should be 0, and with the levee name. Okay, now that is complete, so we'll just turn that off, and we are done with these guys. So we can move, well, we're done with we're not going to use these at all, so let's remove those completely. And these guys can go down here. We're not going to use those right now. And these guys can also go down here. We're not going to use those guys right now. And then we can hit save. And I am going to click no, because I just want to leave this data connected to the map. I don't want it to be part of the map, so let's just click no. That way I can remove those layers if I want. All right. Okay, now the next step will be to define, extract crest elevation for these levees along these lines. So here's what I have to do that. Let's see. First, so I think for now we don't need this. Let's see, we don't need this one, and we don't need this one, and we can unselect from all layers. Okay, and we can we actually need to wipe out this layer, so let me do that right now. I need to delete all of these because we're going to show you how to create these right now. So I need to clean out that map really quickly. Okay, now the next step will be to run a series of scripts that are going to take and create a point along our levee alignment lines every 500 feet. And then it's going to create a buffer around each one of those points, and then it's going to sample the elevation using zonal statistics inside the area of each of those buffered polygons. And it's going to get a maximum of the elevation from this map. Now, when I made this, I did this in a series of steps. So I started with points along a line. And then I ended with, and then I buffered those points, and then I copied those points into the elevation point group, and then, you know, had to do some kind of point sampling and all this stuff. So the entire process takes like about 20 steps, and it's kind of easy to make a mistake on. So what I did instead is I asked ChatGPT if it would help me build a script to do all this in one step. And that's exactly what this is. So what I need to do is I needed to wipe out the elevation points from here to make that empty. And I need to delete these two because we're going to rebuild those. So let's remove those two. Right click R will quickly remove layers. And then we can just run this. But before we run it, let's take a look at what it's doing. So it's got, these are the names of the layers that it's going to be accessing. So you can see we have elevation feet here, elevation points here, and levee lines here. So our lines are inside here, and it's going to create a series of points along those lines at a 500-foot interval. Now you can change this to whatever you want. And then this is your buffer radius. That's 30 feet, which is basically like the levees are about 15 feet wide. On the crest of the levees are about 15 feet wide, so I give that buffer about a 30-foot. Now it says that this is you'll have to ignore this. This is probably going to be, this is a 30-foot diameter. Or, oh, sorry, this is the buffer radius. So this will be basically about a 60-foot diameter. Then we have a membership value called levees that needs to be filled in right here, and it absolutely needs to be levees. Okay. Then the code. So the code is going to do all the work for you to add the points and all of that stuff. It's going to sample your raster. So I'm not going to go through this code step by step, but I want you to know that one thing is that when you are sampling that raster, you need to sample the zonal statistics with the index position set to 6. Well, I guess that's a list. 6 is max, okay? And let's go ahead and run it. So I'm going to hit save, and then I'm going to hit run. And then what you see right here is that it's working through all those processes. And then the final step is to fill this layer right here with your elevation. Okay, so this is your crest elevation. And I don't think we need a name in this one, but we definitely need this to be membership of Levee. Okay? And it also, as you can see, it also created these scratch layers that we don't really need. So we're finished with these scratch layers. You can either remove them or you can uncheck them. But they are scratch layers, meaning that they will be deleted the next time that you close your map, unless you save them. So unless you want those, save them before you close your map. Let's go ahead and clear the console. Everything is done here. Now let's take a second to go check out that ChatGPT method and what I'm going to do to give that method to you so that you could build one of these for yourself. So back here on ChatGPT, I worked on this, and it took me like maybe, I know I had to go back and forth and rounds back and forth between me and ChatGPT fixing bugs, and no, you're not doing this quite right, I need you to do this instead. And so that took like maybe an hour to get that Levee processing tool. So then what I asked ChatGPT to do was to write out that workflow and that code into this Jupyter Notebook file. And I have a workshop that I maintain where we learn how to process data with Flow2D. It's called a map and data processing workshop, and we've given this workshop at AFMA and ASFPM, and I've given it once on my own to you guys. I think we did like a 2 or 4 hour workshop and worked through as many of these as we could, and then I'm now adding this notebook to that. So if I open this notebook, if I just double click this, it's going to open it in VS Code, and VS Code is a great way to look at notebooks, but you can't run this code here because this code has to be run from QGIS, because this is like processor on an active map. Okay, so it has to be able to find its layers, and it has to be able to find them by name. Okay, but everything is here, the code is right here, and so when I submit these videos and this training package, I will submit it with access to this notebook so that you can see this too. All right, let's get back here. I'm not going to go over how I created or the workflow of getting that, because like I said, it took about an hour, so I'm not going to walk through that with you. But instead, what we'll do next is we will do our Levee processing. So we're finished with this guy, and we are now ready to move on to the Levee processing, which is the tool right here. Whoops, not that one. This one, Levee elevation tool. And we don't need polygons, so we're going to skip the polygons. And we do need user elevation points, but our search radius is defaulting to the cell size, and we definitely don't want that. Our search radius can be 5 feet because we know that our points are snapped to our line. We know that our points are perfectly aligned to our line because of the way that we made our points. We extracted them. We did points along the line to extract them. So we need user elevation points to set our crest elevation, and user levee lines to set our position of our levee. And all we have to do is click Create Schematic Layers from User Levees. And you can see that that processes in a moving window, meaning that it's going to process about, I think it's like 100 by 100 or 1,000 by 1,000 cells at a time. And it's going to give you some information. Interestingly enough, some of your information was actually written out here on your processing console, and you have a note here that there are 4 redundant levee directions. They have a lower crest elevation than the opposite direction. Now there's only 4 of them, so if I click Show Details, it's going to show you the cells that it wants you to delete. I don't recommend showing these details if you have more than just a handful of these. We'll just click Yes, delete the redundant levee whose neighbor or whose conflicting levee has the lower crest elevation. We want to delete the one with the lower crest elevation, okay? And now it says values assigned to schematic layers. There are now 817 grid elements with levees and 2023 levee directions and 0 failure data. So that'll come later. Then we click OK. And I think that we are now basically finished. Well, I'm going to leave these open because every time I close this profile tool, I have to reset it. So I'm not going to close I'm not going to close this panel yet. Now let's turn some things off so that we can see better. So we'll turn off our elevation points, and let's go ahead and collapse some stuff here. And okay, and now let's turn our Flow 2D levees on. We'll turn off our user layers and let's just focus on our Flow 2D layers. And you can see, what are we looking for? Well, we are looking for places in here that are not really valid. Like, okay, this, for example, is a boundary, boundary, boundary. This is not a boundary. So you might want to delete this levee and bring it back to like right about here, so that it can be, to be honest with you, I think Flow 2D is just going to ignore these. The Flow Pro engine is going to ignore these three right here, or possibly delete them, eliminate them from the data before it runs. That's my guess. And then this one looks valid. And let's turn off some maps here. We know that the alignment is good, so let's just turn off some maps. And okay, that is looking a little, let's take our look at our levee alignment and see why that's looking like that. This looks suspicious, but really it's okay, because what's happening is that if you put your cursor here, let's turn the yellow or the levee lines back off. If you put your cursor here, can you cross the levee? Can you cross over to the riverside without crossing a levee? So even though that looks kind of suspicious, and it honestly would be easier just to smooth that out, there's nothing wrong with this levee, because I can't cross from the land side to the river side without crossing a red line. So there's nothing wrong with that, even though it looks a little ugly. What I'm looking for now is holes, openings, and is my channel on the inside of the levee. If my channel crosses the levee and overtops, that will effectively wipe out that levee at that spot. Okay, so the channel has to stay inside the levee. Same thing here, looks a little sus, but there's nothing wrong with this. And now we'll start checking both sides. We can check them both at the same time. That came out looking pretty good. Nothing's touching our channel, that's good. Okay, everything is still wrapping, even though these are sharing a bank with our channel or sharing a cell with our channel, they're still wrapping around the outside of our channel, so that's fine. Everything looking good here. This is nice and open, that's wide open, we can get through there. So if we have like an inflow hydrograph we want to put in there, we can certainly do that. That's all looking good. See, our channel's wrapped around the outside of all of that. Don't worry about this. This is a rubber band, it'll disappear. So we got water can flow through there. And that looks good. That came up perfectly. Now these two, again, this one is not necessary. The Flow Pro engine will just remove it when it assesses its levees. So now the next step will be to run this project, because it's going to give us some error messages related to levees. So what I'm going to do is I am going to probably stop the video at the first error message, and we'll pick up the video on how to correct those errors. Okay, so here we go. Make sure that our levee switch is turned on. So we go to switches, main channel, levees. Let's check our floodplain. Both of those are set to 2. Time lapse, I think it's set to 0. That's fine. We don't need time lapse at this point. So we can save that, and then quick run. We'll call this, we need a new folder, and let's call this quick run, let's say levee database test, levees from database. Like that works for me. And select the folder. We don't have any rain on this one. Channels, outflow, inflow, levees, and that's your grid right there. Okay, now we should be getting an error message because of levees that have like elevations that are too low. Okay, no error message. That's fine, but we still are going to have some levees that are too low. So we'll just let that run, and I'm going to minimize it. And what we'll do now is go ahead and check some of our output data in our levees. But again, I'm going to show you this, but again, we're going to do this in the next video. Sorry, wrong page. Let's get that back to levees, projects, New Mexico, Rio Grande, and levees from database, and then type. Okay, so error check. See here, the following grids have elevation higher than the contiguous levee crest. So we have to fix these. And we also would have something called a low levee crest elevations. And that, see how a lot of those values are negative? Those are also things that we would have to fix. So those are probably just points that picked up a bad elevation. We'll figure out why and we'll fix those. And we'll do that in the next video. Is there anything else that's in here? Nope, I don't see anything yet. And we have to let the model finish running, and we'll fix everything else in the next video.